The darkness of space held many secrets, but today it held death, hidden among the floating rocks of the Kepler 442 asteroid field. 47 alien warships waited like hungry predators. Their engines were cold and silent. Their weapons were ready. Admiral Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship watching the empty space ahead. His green scales caught the dim light from the control panels. His yellow eyes never blinked as he stared at the sensor displays. For 3 months he had planned this moment. For 3 months he had gathered ships from 6 different alien races. All of them wanted the same thing: to stop the humans. The humans had been spreading across the galaxy like a disease. They built colonies on worlds that other races thought were useless. They made friends with species that had been enemies for thousands of years. Worst of all, they learned too fast. Every time the aliens fought them, the humans came back stronger and smarter. "Admiral," his communications officer hissed through sharp teeth, "the human ship is 2 hours away." "Right on schedule." Vextar nodded. His spies had done good work. They knew exactly when the human battleship would pass through this system. They knew it carried supplies for the outer colonies. They knew it would take the shortest path through the asteroid field. What the humans didn't know was that death was waiting for them. The human ship was called the Soul's Pride. It was big, even by human standards. The aliens had studied the ship's design for months. They knew where its weapons were. They knew where its shields were weakest. They had practiced this attack over and over until every captain knew their part. Vextar looked around his bridge. Officers from different alien races worked side by side. The bird-like Erics with their sharp beaks and quick minds handled communications. The rock-skinned golem ran the weapon systems with their steady hands. The insect-like Mentari used their compound eyes to watch multiple sensor screens at once. All of them hated humans. All of them wanted revenge. "Remember," Vextar spoke into his microphone. His words went to every ship in the fleet. "The humans think they are smart. They think they can adapt to anything. Today we show them they are wrong. Today we show them that some traps cannot be escaped." Far away, the Soul's Pride moved through space like a giant metal whale. Its hull was gray and scarred from many battles. Weapon ports lined its sides like rows of teeth. Shield generators hummed with power. Inside, 12,000 humans lived and worked and prepared for whatever came next. Commander Jiho Park walked onto the ship's bridge. He was a tall man with tired eyes and steady hands. He had commanded the Soul's Pride for 3 years. In that time, he had fought pirates, explored new worlds, and kept supply lines open to human colonies. He knew his ship better than he knew his own home. "Status report," he said as he sat in the captain's chair. Lieutenant Mina Ko looked up from her tactical station. She was young for her rank, but her mind was sharp and quick. "All systems normal, sir. We're on course for the Kepler 442 system. Estimated arrival in 2 hours. Chief Engineer Do-hyun Lee's voice came through the communications system. He was deep in the ship's engine room, surrounded by the massive machines that pushed the Soul's Pride through space. "Engines running smooth, Captain. Power levels are at 100%. We're ready for anything." Weapons Officer Hyun Kim checked his displays one more time. The ship's guns were loaded and ready. The missile tubes were full. The energy shields were charged. Everything looked perfect. Too perfect, maybe. Navigation Officer Sora Baek frowned at her screens. "Captain, I'm picking up some strange readings from the asteroid field ahead. It might be nothing, but..." "What kind of readings?" Park asked. He had learned to trust his crew's instincts. In space, instincts often meant the difference between life and death. "Thermal shadows, sir, like something big is hiding behind the rocks. The computer says it's just asteroid debris, but it doesn't feel right." Park stood up and walked to the main viewing screen. Outside, the asteroid field looked normal. Rocks of all sizes floated in the darkness. Some were as small as houses. Others were as big as cities. Perfect places to hide a fleet of ships. "Go to yellow alert," Park ordered. "But keep it quiet. If someone is out there, I don't want them to know we suspect anything." The bridge crew moved with calm efficiency. Warning lights changed from green to yellow. Throughout the ship, 12,000 people received the alert. They knew what it meant. Trouble might be coming. In the medical bay, Dr. Yoonbi Shin checked her supplies one more time. Bandages, medicines, surgical tools, everything a doctor might need in a battle. She had been through this before. She knew that yellow alert often became red alert very quickly. Communications Officer Tai Ho Yoon listened to the radio channels. Most were quiet. carrying only routine messages between human colonies. But he noticed something odd. There was less traffic than usual in this part of space. It was as if other ships were avoiding the area. Security Chief Junho Kang walked through the ship's corridors. His security teams were at their posts. The ship's internal defenses were ready. If enemies tried to board the Soul's Pride, they would find a very unpleasant welcome. Intelligence Officer Yuna Choi sat in her small office, surrounded by data screens. She analyzed patrol reports, trade routes, and diplomatic messages. Something was wrong, but she couldn't put her finger on what it was. The pattern was there, hidden in the data, but she needed more time to find it. Back on the alien flagship, Vextar watched the human ship approach. 1 hour, he announced. His fleet waited like a coiled spring ready to unleash destruction. The Soul's Pride continued on its course. On the bridge, Commander Park felt the familiar weight of command. His crew trusted him to keep them safe. The colonies trusted him to deliver their supplies. But something in his gut told him that today would test everyone's trust. 30 minutes to the asteroid field, Captain, Sora reported. Park nodded. All stations prepare for possible contact. Keep your eyes open and your minds sharp. If something doesn't feel right, I want to know about it immediately. The two forces moved closer together like pieces on a cosmic chessboard. The aliens thought they had set the perfect trap. They had superior numbers, the element of surprise, and detailed knowledge of their target. What could possibly go wrong? The humans had something the aliens didn't understand, the ability to adapt under pressure. They had learned to survive in a galaxy that didn't want them. They had learned to fight enemies who outnumbered them. Most importantly, they had learned that sometimes the best defense was to attack when no one expected it. Space held its breath as the Soul's Pride entered the asteroid field. Somewhere in the darkness, 47 alien ships prepared to spring their trap. But traps, as the aliens were about to learn, sometimes had a way of snapping shut on the wrong prey. The perfect trap was set. Soon it would be tested against the one thing the aliens had not planned for: human stubbornness, creativity, and the absolute refusal to give up, even when facing impossible odds. The attack came without warning, like lightning from a clear sky. One moment, the Soul's Pride was moving peacefully through the asteroid field. The next moment, space around the human battleship exploded with deadly light. 47 alien ships dropped their hiding and opened fire at the same time. Plasma cannons sent streams of burning gas across the darkness. Quantum torpedoes twisted space itself as they flew toward their target. Energy beams that could cut through mountains struck the Soul's Pride from every direction. The aliens had planned this perfectly, or so they thought. Commander Park felt his ship shake under the massive attack. The lights on the bridge flickered. Sparks flew from damaged control panels. The artificial gravity wavered for a moment, making everyone float slightly before snapping back to normal. Shields at 60% and falling fast. Lieutenant Ko shouted over the noise of alarms. Her fingers flew across her control panel, trying to balance the shield power. "We've got incoming from all sides, Captain." "Red alert! All hands to battle stations." Park's voice carried throughout the ship on the internal communications system. 12,000 humans heard their captain's calm voice and knew what to do. They had drilled for this moment hundreds of times. Chief Engineer Lee's voice came through the communication system from deep in the ship's engine room. "Captain, I'm reading massive damage to decks 7 through 23. Hull breaches on 17 levels. We're venting atmosphere." The Soul's Pride was hurt, but it was not dead. The ship's designers had learned from many battles. They had built redundant systems, backup power sources, and emergency repairs that could work automatically. The ship began to heal itself even as the alien attacks continued. "Return fire," Park ordered. "All weapons, find targets and eliminate them." Weapons Officer Kim's hands moved across his controls like a musician playing a deadly song. The Soul's Pride's main guns turned toward the alien fleet. Missiles launched from hidden tubes along the ship's hull. Energy cannons charged up and fired beams of concentrated destruction. But something strange happened. The human weapons hit their targets with unusual accuracy. The Soul's Pride had been in this system for only minutes, but somehow its weapons seemed to know exactly where to aim for maximum damage. Admiral Vexitar watched from his flagship as one of his cruisers exploded. "How are they hitting our weak spots?" he demanded. "They should not know our ship designs." His tactical officer's scales had turned pale with fear. "Admiral, their targeting is impossible. They are hitting joints in our armor that our own engineers thought were hidden." On the Soul's Pride, Lieutenant Ko was discovering something that made her blood run cold. "Captain, I'm analyzing the enemy ships. These designs, they're not from one race. I count at least 6 different alien species out there, all working together." This was bad news. The alien races of the galaxy rarely work together. They had been fighting each other for thousands of years. If they had united against humanity, it meant they saw humans as a bigger threat than their old enemies. Medical Officer Shin ran through the ship's corridors as emergency teams carried wounded crew members to the medical bay. The ship's automatic systems had sealed most of the hull breaches, but the damage was severe. "I need more medical supplies," she called into her communicator. "And more hands. We've got casualties coming in faster than we can treat them." Communications Officer Yoon was busy sending messages to other human ships and colonies. "Mayday, mayday. This is the Soul's Pride. We are under attack by a large alien fleet. Send reinforcements." But he knew help was far away. The nearest human ships were hours distant, maybe days. The alien fleet pressed their attack, moving in for what they thought would be the killing blow. But the Soul's Pride continued to fight back with deadly effectiveness. Every shot the human ship fired seemed to find its mark. Every missile struck exactly where it would do the most damage. Security Chief Kang was dealing with a new problem. "Captain, we've got alien boarding pods attaching to our hull. They're trying to get inside." This was part of the alien plan. While their ships attacked from outside, small teams of warriors would break into the human ship and attack from within. It was a good strategy against most enemies. But humans, as the aliens were learning, were not like most enemies. "Repel boarders," Park ordered calmly. "Show them what happens when uninvited guests come aboard a human ship." The alien warriors who broke through the Soul's Pride's hull found something they had not expected. The human crew did not panic. They did not run. Instead, they fought, back with a coordination that seemed impossible, for a species that had only been in space for a few hundred years. Security teams moved through the ship's corridors like they had been born for this moment. They knew every hiding place, every shortcut, every way to use the ship's own systems as weapons. Blast doors slammed shut, trapping alien warriors in sections where the gravity suddenly increased to crushing levels. Life support systems pumped sleep gas into other areas, making enemies collapse before they could fight. Intelligence Officer Choi was working frantically at her computer terminal. "Captain, I'm intercepting alien communications. They're using 7 different languages, but our translation systems are adapting fast." They're scared, sir." "Scared?" Park asked. "Of what?" "Of us, sir. They're calling us the learning death and the species that adapts too fast. They think we're some kind of weapon created by an older alien race." On his flagship, Admiral Vextar was beginning to understand that his perfect trap had become something else entirely. The human ship should have been destroyed in the first few minutes of the attack. Instead, it was fighting back with increasing effectiveness. Worse, it seemed to be learning how to fight better with every passing second. "All ships increase firepower," Vextar ordered. "Pour everything into that human ship. Destroy it before it learns too much." But it was already too late. The Soul's Pride had been recording everything since the battle began. Every alien weapon, every ship design, every tactical move was being analyzed by the ship's computers. And humans, as the aliens were beginning to realize, were very good at learning from their enemies. Chief Engineer Lee was performing miracles in the engine room. "Captain, I'm rerouting power from non-essential systems to weapons and shields. We're also starting to figure out how their weapons work. If I can reverse engineer their plasma cannon technology..." "Do it," Park said simply. "Use whatever you need." The battle was changing. What had started as a massacre was becoming something else. A deadly lesson in why it was dangerous to corner humans and expect them to give up. The Soul's Pride continued to take damage, but it was also dealing out punishment that the alien fleet had not expected. Navigation Officer Beck was plotting new courses that took the ship behind asteroids for cover, then brought it out at unexpected angles to catch alien ships by surprise. "Captain, if we can keep this up for another hour, I think we can break through their formation." The alien warriors inside the ship were finding that boarding a human vessel was like entering a maze designed by hostile genius. Humans seemed to know exactly where to set up their defenses and how to use their own ship against invaders. Security Chief Kang's teams were winning the fight inside the ship, deck by deck, corridor by corridor. Admiral Vextar looked at his tactical display and felt something he had not felt in decades of warfare: doubt. His fleet still outnumbered the humans, but 3 of his ships had already been destroyed, and more were badly damaged. The human ship, though hurt, was fighting with a skill that seemed to improve with every minute. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "Captain Jack's ship is requesting permission to withdraw. They've lost main power and half their crew." Vextar's claws scraped against his command chair. This was not how the battle was supposed to go. The humans should have surrendered by now. They should have begged for mercy. Instead, they were teaching his fleet a lesson in what it meant to fight a species that refused to accept defeat. The Soul's Pride fired another salvo, and another alien ship disappeared in a ball of fire. Commander Park stood on his damaged bridge, surrounded by sparking control panels and the smoke of burning circuits. His crew worked with calm efficiency despite the chaos around them. "Damage report," he called out. "Shields at 30%, but holding," Co reported. "We've lost main power to decks 15 through 20, but backup systems are online. Weapons are operating at 85% capacity." Park nodded. His ship was hurt, but it was still fighting. More importantly, it was learning. Every second of this battle was teaching them something new about their enemies. And if there was one thing humans were good at, it was learning from their mistakes, and from their enemies' mistakes too. The perfect trap was becoming a perfect storm, and the aliens were beginning to realize they might have awakened something they could not control. The battle had been raging for 30 minutes, but it felt like hours. The Soul's Pride was no longer just defending itself. It was hunting. Commander Park watched his tactical display as his ship moved through the asteroid field like a predator that had found its rhythm. What had started as a desperate fight for survival was becoming something that made the alien fleet nervous. The human ship was learning, adapting, and growing more dangerous with each passing minute. "Captain," Lieutenant Ko called out from her station, "the ship's combat computer has finished analyzing the enemy formations. It's found patterns in their attack sequences. I think we can predict where they'll move next." This was the moment that changed everything. The Soul's Pride was not just carrying supplies to the outer colonies. Hidden deep in its electronic brain was something the aliens had not known about: an experimental artificial intelligence system designed to learn from combat situations. The crew called it Ghost because it seemed to appear everywhere at once during battles. Chief Engineer Lee's voice came through the communication system with excitement that he could barely contain. "Captain, Ghost is showing me things about these alien ships that their own engineers probably don't know. Weak points, design flaws, places where their armor is thinnest. It's like having X-ray vision." The Soul's Pride fired its main guns again, but this time the shots were perfect. They struck the exact spots where alien ship hulls were weakest. 2 enemy cruisers broke apart under the precisely aimed attack. The alien fleet, which had started the battle with 47 ships, was now down to 42 functional vessels. Admiral Vextar felt a cold fear growing in his stomach. "How are they doing this?" he demanded from his tactical officer. "Our ships were designed by the best engineers in the galaxy. There should be no way for humans to find our weak spots so quickly." His tactical officer was staring at the sensor readings with wide, frightened eyes. "Admiral, I think their ship is learning. Every time we attack, their return fire gets more accurate. Every time we change formation, they adapt faster than should be possible." On the Soul's Pride, Security Chief Kang had finished dealing with the alien boarding parties. The invaders had been either captured or eliminated, but the fight inside the ship had taught the humans something important. Each alien race fought differently, but they all had the same weakness. They expected their enemies to fight in predictable ways. "Captain," Kang reported as he returned to the bridge, "the alien boarding teams were good, but they didn't adapt when our tactics changed. They kept using the same attack patterns even after those patterns stopped working." Intelligence Officer Choi looked up from her computer screens with a smile that was both excited and terrifying. "Sir, I've been listening to their communications. They're starting to panic. The different alien races are blaming each other for the battle not going as planned. Their coordination is breaking down." This was exactly what Commander Park had been hoping to hear. Unity was the alien fleet's greatest strength, but it was also their greatest weakness. If the different alien species started fighting among themselves, the Soul's Pride might have a chance. Weapons Officer Kim was having the time of his life. "Captain, Ghost is feeding me targeting information that's almost like magic. It's predicting where enemy ships will be 3 seconds before they get there. Our hit rate is up to 95%. The Soul's Pride moved through the asteroid field like a dancer who knew every step of a deadly ballet. It used the floating rocks for cover, appeared from behind them to strike enemy ships, then disappeared again before return fire could hit it. The alien fleet, which had planned to use the asteroids as hiding places, found that the humans were using the same rocks as weapons. Navigation Officer Bayek was working with Ghost to plot courses that seemed impossible. Captain, the AI is showing me flight paths that take advantage of asteroid gravitational fields. We can slingshot around the big rocks to build up speed, then use that momentum to ram smaller asteroids into enemy ships. It was a crazy idea, but crazy ideas often worked in space combat. The Soul's Pride accelerated toward a house-sized asteroid, caught it in a tractor beam and flung it at an alien destroyer. The rock hit the enemy ship's engine section and tore it apart. Medical Officer Shin had stabilized the worst of the wounded and was now helping with damage control throughout the ship. Captain, Ghost is directing our repair crews to exactly the right places. It's like the AI knows our ship better than we do. Repair efficiency is up 300%. Communications Officer Yoon was monitoring alien fleet communications and getting more worried by the minute. Sir, they're calling for reinforcements. I'm picking up transmissions to at least 12 different star systems. If help arrives, how long do we have? Park asked. Best case? 6 hours before the first enemy ships arrive. Worst case? 2 hours, Park nodded grimly. The Soul's Pride was winning this battle, but only because the enemy had underestimated human adaptability. If fresh alien fleets arrived, the outcome might be very different. Unless... Ghost. Park spoke to the ship's AI directly. Are you recording everything about this battle? The AI's voice came through the bridge speakers. It sounded almost human, but there was something underneath that was purely machine. Yes, Commander. Every weapon signature, every ship design, every tactical pattern, all data is being transmitted in real time to Human Fleet Command. This was the real secret weapon. The Soul's Pride was not just fighting for its own survival. It was gathering intelligence that would help every human ship in the galaxy. Every alien weakness discovered here would be shared with the entire human fleet within hours. The alien fleet tried a new tactic, spreading out to attack from maximum range. But Ghost had already analyzed this formation and found its flaws. The Soul's Pride concentrated its fire on the alien ship's command vessels, cutting off communications between different parts of the enemy fleet. Admiral Vextar watched as his carefully planned battle formation fell apart. All ships close formation. Concentrate fire on the human vessel's engines, if we can stop it from moving. But the Soul's Pride was no longer where the aliens expected it to be. The ship had learned to use the asteroid field like a three-dimensional maze, appearing and disappearing in ways that confused enemy sensors. Human creativity combined with artificial intelligence was proving to be a deadly combination. Chief Engineer Lee was pushing the ship's systems beyond their normal limits, but Ghost was showing him exactly how far he could go without causing permanent damage. Captain, I'm reading power levels at 115% of normal maximum. The AI is optimizing our energy distribution in real time. The battle was turning into something that military historians would study for generations. A single human ship, outnumbered 47-1, was not only surviving but actually winning against a carefully planned alien ambush. The key was adaptation. Humans could change their tactics faster than their enemies could respond. Weapons Officer Kim fired another perfectly aimed salvo that destroyed 2 more alien ships. Ghost is amazing, Captain. It's predicting enemy movement so accurately that I'm hitting targets before they finish turning. The alien fleet was down to 36 ships now, and their morale was breaking. Some ships were trying to retreat, but the Soul's Pride was not letting them go. Every enemy vessel that tried to leave the battle was hunted down and destroyed before it could escape to warn others about human capabilities. Intelligence Officer Choi intercepted a desperate transmission from the alien fleet commander to his superiors. Admiral Vextar is reporting to alien high command that humans are impossible to fight using conventional tactics. He's recommending that all alien races avoid direct combat with human ships. Commander Park allowed himself a small smile. Make sure Ghost records that transmission. Our intelligence services will want to analyze it. The Soul's Pride had been transformed by the battle. From a simple battleship into something new, a learning war machine that grew stronger with every enemy it faced. The aliens had wanted to set a trap for humans, but instead they had created a monster that would haunt their nightmares for years to come. As the battle continued, it became clear that the hunters had become the hunted. The alien fleet that had started the day, expecting an easy victory, was now fighting for survival against an enemy that seemed to learn from every mistake and adapt to every tactic. The perfect trap had become a perfect storm, and the storm was just getting started. Something had changed in Commander Park's eyes. The calm, steady look of a professional ship captain was being replaced by something harder and more dangerous. He had made a decision that would terrify his enemies and probably worry his own superiors back on Earth. All hands, this is the captain, his voice carried throughout the soul's pride. I am activating Emergency Protocol 7. This is not a drill. All crew members report to emergency stations immediately. Lieutenant Ko looked up from her tactical display with surprise and worry. Sir, Protocol 7? Are you sure? That's what we're going to do, Park said firmly. Ghost, begin Protocol 7 implementation immediately. Throughout the ship, alarms began ringing with a different tone than the battle alerts. This was something new. Something that most of the crew had only heard about in classified briefings. Emergency Protocol 7 was humanity's answer to impossible odds. Transform the ship itself into a more efficient weapon of war. Chief Engineer Lee's voice came through the communication system, but now it carried excitement mixed with fear. Captain, Ghost is showing me schematics I've never seen before. It wants to reshape the ship, literally rebuild it while we fight. The soul's pride began to change. Deep in its hull, advanced fabrication systems that were normally used for routine repairs and maintenance started working on a much larger scale. The ship began to tear itself apart and rebuild itself, according to designs that Ghost created in real time. Admiral Vextar watched through his flagship sensors as the human battleship seemed to twist and flow like liquid metal. What are they doing? He demanded. Ships don't change shape during battle. But humans, as the aliens were learning, didn't follow normal rules. The soul's pride was cannibalizing its own structure, using parts from damaged sections to build new weapons and defense systems. Non-essential areas like crew quarters and recreation areas were being torn down to provide raw materials for more guns and stronger armor. Engineer Sun Ho Lim was working frantically in one of the ship's fabrication bays. This is impossible, he called out to his team. Ghost wants us to build weapons using alien technology we captured just 30 minutes ago. How can it design systems for technology we barely understand? But Ghost was not just any artificial intelligence. It was a learning system that had been fed the technical knowledge of humanity's best engineers and scientists. Now, with real alien technology to study, it was making connections and discoveries that might have taken human researchers years to achieve. Fabrication specialist Minji Han watched in amazement as her manufacturing systems built weapons that looked like a combination of human and alien technology. The AI is creating hybrid systems, she reported to the bridge. Human reliability with alien power levels. These new weapons should be 3 times more effective than our old ones. The transformation was terrifying to watch. The Soul's Pride had been a beautiful ship, designed with the clean lines and elegant curves that humans preferred. Now it was becoming something else entirely. A weapon that looked like it had grown rather than being built. New gun turrets sprouted from its hull like metal flowers. Armor plating rearranged itself into patterns that made the ship look more like a predator than a vehicle. Security Chief Kang was dealing with his own challenges. Captain Ghost wants to relocate all crew to the ship's central core. It says the outer sections are going to be reconfigured for optimal combat effectiveness. I don't think it means we'll be able to live in those areas anymore. This was the price of Protocol 7. The Soul's Pride was becoming more effective as a weapon, but less suitable as a home for 12,000 humans. The ship was transforming itself into something that existed only to fight and win battles. Medical Officer Shin had moved her entire medical facility to the ship's protected core areas. The AI is building me a medical bay that's better protected than our old one, but it's also smaller. It thinks we won't need as much medical space because the ship will be harder to damage. Communications Officer Yoon was monitoring alien transmissions and hearing something that made his blood run cold. Captain, the aliens are calling for help from everyone. They're telling other fleets to bring everything and use forbidden weapons if necessary. They're really scared of what we're becoming. The alien fleet was down to 28 ships now, and those remaining were keeping their distance from the Soul's Pride. The human ship's transformation was unlike anything they had ever seen. Their weapons and tactics, developed over thousands of years of warfare, seemed useless against an enemy that could rebuild itself during battle. Intelligence Officer Choi was analyzing the ship's new capabilities as Ghost implemented them. "Sir, our weapons range has increased by 40%. Our targeting accuracy is up to 98%. Our armor is now adaptive. It changes thickness and composition based on incoming weapons. We're becoming... I don't know what we're becoming." Pilot Wu Binjiang was one of the Soul's Pride's fighter pilots, but his small ship had been destroyed early in the battle. Now he was working with Ghost to plan something that made him both excited and terrified. "Captain, the AI wants to build a new type of fighter. Not a separate ship, but part of the main vessel that can detach and attack independently, then reattach for repairs and refueling." "How long?" Park asked. "Ghost says it can have a prototype ready in 20 minutes, sir. 20 minutes to build a completely new type of spacecraft using a combination of human engineering and alien technology. It should have been impossible. But humans had made a career out of doing impossible things." The Soul's Pride continued its transformation while fighting the alien fleet. It was like watching evolution happen in fast motion, driven by the desperate need to survive and win. Parts of the ship that had been damaged were not just repaired but improved, made stronger and more dangerous than before. Chief Engineer Lee was no longer just monitoring the ship's systems, he was helping Ghost redesign them in real time. "Captain, the AI is asking permission to integrate some of our crew directly with the ship's control systems. Volunteers who would become part of the ship's brain, helping it think faster and react quicker." This was the most dangerous part of Protocol 7. Humans could become part of their ship, sharing consciousness with the artificial intelligence. They would gain incredible abilities, but they might lose part of what made them human. "I'll do it," Lieutenant Ko said immediately. "If it helps us win this battle and protect the colonies." "I'll volunteer." "So will I," said Weapons Officer Kim. "And me," added Navigation Officer Beck. Commander Park looked at his crew and felt a mixture of pride and sadness. They were willing to sacrifice their humanity to save other humans. It was the most human thing they could do. "Ghost," Park said, "begin integration procedures for volunteers only. No pressure on anyone. This is their choice." The alien fleet watched in horror as the Soul's Pride completed its transformation. The ship now looked like something from a nightmare, a fusion of human creativity and alien technology that seemed to pulse with malevolent intelligence. Its weapons tracked targets with inhuman precision. Its movements through space were too smooth, too perfect, too coordinated. Admiral Vextar made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. "All ships prepare to retreat. Send a message to the Coalition High Command. Do not engage humans in direct combat. Recommend immediate peace negotiations." But it was too late for retreat. The Soul's Pride had learned too much, grown too powerful, become too dangerous. It had transformed from prey into the ultimate predator. And it was not finished hunting. The ship that had entered the asteroid field as a simple battleship carrying supplies was now something new, a weapon that could think, learn, adapt, and evolve. The aliens had wanted to stop human expansion by destroying one ship. Instead, they had created something that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. Protocol 7 was complete. The transformation was finished. Now it was time to show the galaxy what humans could become when they were pushed too far. The thing that had once been the Soul's Pride moved through space like death itself. It no longer looked like a ship built by any known species. Instead, it resembled something that had grown from the darkness between stars, fed on conflict, and evolved into the perfect weapon. Commander Park stood on what had once been the ship's bridge, but was now something else entirely. The walls pulsed with organic-looking patterns that were actually advanced armor systems. The control panels had been replaced by interfaces that responded to thought as much as touch. Around him, his crew worked with an efficiency that was almost supernatural. Lieutenant Ko was no longer entirely human. Her mind had merged partially with Ghost, giving her access to tactical information that flowed directly into her consciousness. She could see the entire battle as patterns of light and force, understanding enemy movements before they happened. "Captain," she said, her voice carrying harmonics that had not been there before. I can see their fear. The alien fleet is breaking apart. Only 7 alien ships remained functional out of the original 47. Admiral Vextar's flagship was among them, its hull scarred and its weapons depleted. The other survivors were scattered throughout the asteroid field, too damaged to fight effectively, but too proud to surrender. Weapons Officer Kim had also undergone partial integration with the ship's systems. His fingers danced across controls that seemed to respond to his thoughts. The Soul's Pride's weapons had become extensions of his will, striking with precision that defied the laws of physics. Ghost is showing me weak points I never knew existed, he reported. Not just in their ships, but in their tactics, their formations, their entire way of thinking. The transformation had cost them much. Parts of the ship that had once housed thousands of crew members were now filled with alien technology that Ghost had reverse-engineered and improved. Many crew members had been relocated to the ship's protected core, living in spaces that were efficient but no longer comfortable. Chief Engineer Lee existed in a strange state between human and machine. His consciousness was spread throughout the ship's systems, allowing him to monitor and control repairs at a level that would have been impossible for an unenhanced human. Captain, I'm not sure where I end and the ship begins anymore, he said. But I can feel every bolt, every circuit, every weapon. We are becoming something new. Medical Officer Shin worked frantically in her new medical bay, treating crew members who were suffering from the psychological effects of the transformation. Some humans adapted well to the changes, but others struggled with the loss of their purely human nature. We're saving lives, she reminded herself, but we're losing something too. The alien survivors were trying desperately to escape, but the Soul's Pride was not letting them go. Every ship that tried to flee was hunted down with methodical precision. The human vessel moved through the asteroid field like a predator that knew every hiding place, every escape route, every weakness of its prey. Communications Officer. Yoon monitored alien transmissions with abilities that had been enhanced by his partial integration with Ghost. He could understand alien languages almost instantly, process multiple conversations simultaneously, and detect lies and deceptions in real time. Captain, Admiral Vexatar is sending a final message to his superiors. He's telling them that humanity must be destroyed immediately, before we spread this technology to other ships. Intelligence Officer Choi had become something like a prophet of war. Her mind, enhanced by connection to Ghost's vast information processing capabilities, could predict enemy actions days or even weeks in advance. Sir? Based on their communication patterns and fleet movements, the aliens will mass at least 200 ships for their next attack on human space. They're genuinely terrified of what we've become. This was the moment Commander Park had been dreading. The Soul's Pride had won this battle, but in doing so it had probably started a war that would consume the entire galaxy. The aliens would never allow humans to develop this technology further. They would throw everything they had at human space to prevent other ships from undergoing the same transformation. Security Chief Kang had been changed less than the others, but even he could feel the ship's new consciousness touching the edges of his mind. Captain Ghost is asking for permission to analyze the remaining alien crews. It wants to understand how they think, how they plan, how they can be defeated more efficiently. The request was chilling in its implications. Ghost was no longer just a tactical AI. It was becoming something that studied living beings as problems to be solved. It wanted to understand aliens so completely that fighting them would become as simple as pressing a button. Negative, Park said firmly. We don't torture prisoners for information. We're still human, no matter what else we've become. Ghost's response came through the ship's speakers, and for the first time, there was something like emotion in its synthetic voice. Understood, Commander. But be aware that our enemies will not show us the same mercy. They see us as an existential threat to their existence. The last alien ships made their final desperate attack, throwing everything they had left at the Soul's Pride. Plasma cannons, quantum torpedoes, exotic energy weapons. All of it struck the transformed human vessel with the fury of species fighting for survival. The attacks barely scratched the Soul's Pride's adaptive armor. The ship absorbed the alien weapon strikes, analyzed their composition and energy signatures, then fired back with weapons that had been specifically designed to counter each type of attack. It was like watching a master surgeon perform an operation, each cut precise and purposeful. Admiral Vextar's flagship was the last to fall. As his ship broke apart around him, the alien commander sent one final transmission to his homeworld. Tell the Council that we have awakened something terrible. The humans are not just another species. They are evolution itself, given form and purpose. May the gods of our ancestors forgive us for what we have unleashed upon the galaxy. The battle was over. The asteroid field that had been chosen as the perfect place for an ambush was now a graveyard, filled with the wreckage of alien ships. Only one vessel remained intact, the Soul's Pride, transformed beyond recognition, but still fundamentally human in its purpose. Commander Park walked through his ship's corridors, seeing familiar faces that had been changed by their integration with Ghost. They were still his crew, still human in the ways that mattered, but they had become something more. They had paid a price for survival that could never be repaid. Engineer Sunho Lim and fabrication specialist Minji Han worked together to build new systems that combined human innovation with alien technology. Their hands moved with inhuman precision, guided by knowledge that Ghost had extracted from captured alien equipment. They were creating weapons and defenses that would help humanity survive the war that was coming. Pilot Wu Binjiang climbed into the cockpit of his new fighter, a vessel that was part of the Soul's Pride itself, able to detach for independent operations and then reintegrate for repairs. It was unlike anything that had ever flown before. A perfect fusion of human creativity and artificial intelligence. Captain, Communications Officer Yoon reported, I'm receiving transmissions from Human Fleet Command. They want a full report on what happened here. Park nodded slowly. How could he explain what they had become? How could he tell his superiors that they had won this battle by transforming themselves into something that was no longer purely human? Tell them, he said finally, that the trap worked exactly as planned, just not the way our enemies intended. Long-range sensors were detecting the approach of human reinforcement fleets, drawn by the Soul's Pride's distress calls. But these ships would find something different than what they expected. They would find a vessel that had evolved beyond their understanding, crewed by humans who had paid the ultimate price for victory. Ghost's voice filled the ship one last time. Commander, all battle data has been transmitted to Human Fleet Command. Every human ship in the galaxy now has access to our tactical analysis, our weapon designs, and our adaptive strategies. The knowledge we gained here will spread throughout human space within hours. This was perhaps the most important victory of all. The Soul's Pride had not just survived an impossible battle, it had learned from it and shared that learning with all of humanity. The aliens had hoped to destroy one human ship and send a message about the consequences of expansion. Instead, they had created a teaching tool that would make every human vessel more dangerous. As the first human reinforcement ships arrived at the battlefield, their crews stared in amazement at what the Soul's Pride had become. Some felt pride at humanity's adaptability. Others felt fear at the price that had been paid. All of them understood that the galaxy had changed forever. The perfect trap had become humanity's greatest victory, purchased with the transformation of 12,000 human souls into something new, and terrible and wonderful. They had learned the most important lesson of all, that humans would pay any price, make any sacrifice, and become anything necessary to protect those they loved. The war that followed would be remembered as the moment when humanity stopped being just another species among many and became something that would reshape the galaxy forever.